Little Ham says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Good evening, folks, and a big Champions League welcome to the E-Tims podcast. My name is Desmond, and joining me tonight on this very special Champions League draw podcast, I am glad to say it's the usual suspects of Hector Bandido. Good evening, Hector.
Good evening, guys.
Looking forward to your tactical insight for this very special draw tonight. The man from across the water, Monty C. Burns, the C for Champions League, of course. Good evening, Monty.
Good evening, lads.
Thanks for joining us, Monty. And the man from down south, the pilot of the Tarrier Carrier, once more, Ralph Mouth. Good evening, Ralph.
How you doing?
How are you, Ralph? Are you possibly, Ralph, you may be busy. I believe you're down in Stoke, possibly pursuing the new manager's job, but this became available. The big sports story of today.
Hey, I have seen that earlier on, and the local word is that a guy called Sean Dash might get the job.
Well, you were touting Ange Postecoglou for a possibility, I believe.
Well, if he wants to move up a level.
That's true, right. So of course, folks, thanks very much for joining us tonight. This is a very special podcast, just after a recent one. We usually do one every 2 to 4 weeks, but we did promise that if we had a very favourable stroke, special stroke, utterly fan-fucking-tastic Champions League draw, that we would jump on tonight and have a quick chat. So Hector, once again, we've come out of the top four to a dull old Champions League draw. It's boring old Leipzig, Shahktar DOnetz, and some wee Spanish mob called Real Madrid. 42 years we've been waiting, Hector. You and I are roughly the same age. The same watching Celtic, journeying through Europe, waiting and waiting. How do you feel that Nirvana has finally came?
It feels really, really good. Interestingly enough, when the draw was getting made, I was thinking back to your podcast last week. We spoke about two aspects. One was the glamour group.
Yeah.
And the other question was a group that gives us a chance to get through. I think today has given us both. I think it's given us the glamour in Madrid, right? Madrid's Madrid, right? Other than Rangers, the second greatest club side in the history of football. And the other two teams, Leipzig, they'll be good, right? They will be a good team, no two ways about it. And they re-signed Werner from Chelsea again, who wasn't a success at Chelsea, but was excellent with Leipzig. They'll be good. And we mentioned Shahktar Donetsk is the one team who, with the events in Ukraine, they're playing their home games in Poland. So I think we'll definitely get a chance there to finish, at least third, give ourselves further European football. And who knows, Ange's tactic, get them spot on. We get Leipzig in a bad day, we play well. But we've got the glamour. We wanted Madrid so much, right? We seem to get Barcelona. Do you know when Barcelona come up with Bayern Munich? I genuinely thought, fuck, we're getting that fucking group. So when it come up in Madrid, it was great. And Desi, we were just talking before we came on there that a couple of years ago did the tour of the stadium in Madrid. I know they're doing a lot of development work on it just now, but it's just fantastic. It's a proper, they say it was at Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams, not Snow. The Bernabeu just surpasses Old Trafford by a distance. It's amazing. I think the hardest part is going to be the tickets for the fans wanting to go to this game. This could be the biggest ever for a group stage match. That is. Yeah. So I think it ticks all the boxes. Can't wait. Brilliant. Really happy with it. So here we go.
Yeah. And Monty, have you calculated how far it is from your luxury villa in the southern Mediterranean to Madrid? It might be quite a distance because Madrid is geographically situated in the middle of Spain on purpose to be a purpose-built capital. Are you going to be okay driving the Rolls Royce, or will it be the Bentley 4x4 you'll be taking to that trip, you think?
It's a 1 hour 20-minute trip by Lear, so I think I'll just take the jet.
Nice. Are you jetting in? Lovely.
Jetting in from the Iberian Peninsula for 20 quid return with Ryanair. It looks like for a couple of the dates that it might be. So Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I've never been to Madrid. I've obviously been to Spain loads. And what Hector's saying, I'm really, really looking forward to doing the stadium tour and just seeing it for what it is. And I totally agree with his opening comment as well. I think we got the best of both worlds. The fact that they're European champions as well, the fact that Ancelotti got Manager of the Year is seen as part of that pageantry today as well, and the fact that it's the first time for Postecoglou in the Champions League. It's a brilliant one. You're going up against literally the best team in Europe, and I think, as Ralph pointed out in the WhatsApp, was 42 years in the making from we played them. So I think we've all hit a bit of a Champions League jackpot. And I'll definitely be wherever I'm situated on the planet for that midweek. I'll definitely be making my way up to it, Desi.
Yeah, and Ralph, we'll go back to the historical in a second, but looking ahead, as Orange Story 99 said on Twitter, apart from Benzema, Vinicius, Valverde, Modric, Alaba, Mendy, Rudiger, Hazard, Courtois, and their 14 Champions League trophies, what do we actually have to fear from this Madrid mob? Fuck all. Would you believe that's a correct assessment?
Absolutely nothing to fear from them. Nothing at all. You say it's there not to mention history. We played them 3 times.
We're coming to the history. We'll come to that. We'll come to the history. We're just talking about the excitement and the anticipation. Let's talk about the anticipation first.
They think they're the biggest club in Europe. We know we are. It's your statistics against your supporters, as far as I'm concerned.
And on that cheery note.
So you're really getting excited, aren't we? and I'll tell you something, Monty. Again, like you, we've been in Europe a lot. Madrid's the grandest place I've ever been in my life.
Really?
I mean, I've been to Madrid a few times, and it's stunning. Every roundabout there's a bigger fountain. I mean, and again, through the years you've also saw like Sergio Ramos dropping the Champions League trophy off the bus and that, and he approaches another fantastic fountain, and you go to the park, and like, anyone listening, if you can, get yourself to Madrid, but try and get yourself even a wee day either side of the game, because it's just a stunning place. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. And we actually went for Seville. I've got a friend in Madrid. We went to Madrid for 2 days before going down to Seville, where we went and met yourself, Monty. Mind you're helping to organise a party in the park.
We do indeed.
We started off Madrid for a couple of days, staying on about the lovely Atocha Stadium area. Then get the train down from Atocha. I think Big Greg Hempel and maybe Dominic Diamond, he might have been actually. I'm sure Big Greg Hempel faced Tuna Fat and Still Game was on our train going down from Madrid down to Seville, and then we came back and we stayed in Madrid another night before flying back. So that was like a full week we did for Seville, and that was a great trip. But yeah, so wonderful, right? But before we come on to the history, Ralph, I know you've done a very nice wee bit of research there, which we'll come on to, but we'll just quickly touch on Leipzig, however we're pronouncing it this week, and Shahktar Donetsk. And Monty, you very astutely pointed out when we were discussing the possible draws last week that they would be playing in Poland.
Yeah.
So do you think that's a really big level of dragging them down? I don't want to say our level, but I know you three are a lot more optimistic than my kind of pessimistic, as in they're there for the taking.
Well, I'm not even sure. I'm going to do a wee bit of digging on it. I just haven't had a chance. I've been kind of working since the draw. I want to do a bit of digging on it. I'm not even sure that they'll be having competitive football. Like, I don't know if their league's going to run. And we could be playing a team that basically isn't playing week by week. Now, I could be wrong on that. I just haven't had a chance to properly look. But I think the disruption to them is a massive element, Desi, no matter what. I think the impact, you see it with the Russian teams, the fact we talk about, we benefited paradoxically with the horrors of that war. We benefited from it and picking up a player from Russia. So I can't imagine that it's a good thing for them. Could you imagine us playing our home Champions League match in, I don't know, Goodison Park? or Aston Villa.
Well, they're 1,000 miles.
Aye,
Warsaw's 1,000 miles from Donetsk. So what's London 500? So you're talking away somewhere in the middle of France.
Aye. Well, it's not going to be. It's there'll be a whole emotive thing. You're sure about it, and they'll make a big deal of that. But they'll make a big deal of that for all their games. But it's a huge. You hate being cynical because you like a level playing field. We're not like that other Shara shape from across the city that'll cheat at every cost. You want a level playing field, but this is an advantage to us.
Of course, that's definitely.
I'm just checking here to see their recent fixtures. They've played Al Fatih a few times, which I'm assuming is just a team for the Middle East or whatever, and then Metalist 1925. That's the last game on the 23rd of Tuesday, the 23rd of August. Right. And it's saying here, Shahktar DOnetz 7th in the Ukrainian league, according to Google. So I'm not sure if their league's actually up and running. Maybe it's a wee sporadic affair just to kind of tide them over. But that's a very good point, actually. How up to speed will they players be? Because regardless how much you try, friendlies are never going to get you that competitive edge. You know what I mean? So.
See, just go back to Madrid, though, right? And obviously they're European champions 14 times, heavy favourites. But they're an interesting team in terms of they're a hell of a slow starts to a season. They have been for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it tends to be January, February almost, they're just off they go. So what I'm getting is their early European group stage games, they've struggled against teams you think. An example, last year, they lost at home to Sheriff, I forget Sheriff's name. They lost 2-1 at home to them.
That's right.
In the Bernabeu. And by the way, by all accounts, they fully deserve to lose. It's as if, does their season start a bit later? Do they just go through the motions the first few games? Then they just gradually just hit top gear and off they go. So it's an interesting one. I wouldn't, the early game against Madrid, if you're going to get anything, it's the early games. You want them the first or second game. Give yourself a wee sniff your point. But listen, Donetsk, we've won a watch, right? And, it is what it is. We've won a watch because no matter who you are, playing 1,000 miles away from your home ground, not having a home advantage, it is a disadvantage. And it does absolutely help us. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, that's a good, because I was mentioning this with my daughter earlier. We were discussing, again, it would be great if we get Madrid in the Bernabeu for the last game, so to speak. And this is from a best chance of progressing from the group perspective, because you would hope that by then they've already progressed. Normally you'd expect them to have already qualified, but as you say, Hector, they are notorious slow starters, so again they might be chasing the 3 points at the end. But it's a tough one. I think there may be a chance of getting a draw at home against them. Raisinward game, a big night under the Celtic disco lights. Ancelotti's already been quoted as loving the Celtic Park atmosphere, so I'm sure he's looking forward to coming back. The last time he was here, I don't know if you remember, Ralph, the AC Milan keeper came down playing a dead man's fall, remember that? Dida. So that'll be interesting to see if that happens again. But anyway, so we'll get Shahktar DOnetz, Leipzig. Ralph, if you get any excitement about facing Leipzig again, I had a look, and the last time we played them, we had a 2-1 win at home and a 2-0 defeat away. So overall, we kind of lost that one 3-2 in aggregate. Tierney and Edwards scored the goals back in 2018. So it's been a few years since we faced Leipzig.
They played another team, I'm sure, from Glasgow. So I don't think we've got too much to worry about them. But then again, there's always the thing about climbing up the mountain and beating Madrid and falling over the molehill in Leipzig or maybe in Donetsk. The thing that strikes me more about the game than anything else, the Real Madrid thing, is that Ange Postecoglou came from the southern half of the world. He got off a plane, took the first job, really, that was offered to him. And now he's up against the champions of Europe. With the team that he's picked himself, with a team that he's got playing the way he wants to play. And more than anything else, that fascinates me. Because I think that he'll instill enough belief in them to tell them, go out and get a risk.
Yeah, it will be very interesting. I noticed, there was some coverage on Twitter today and it was in respect to Nakamura's goals against Man United, what impact that had on players like Hatate. I think Hatate was 9 years of age when he remembers that goal going, because it was a goal that rocked Japanese football. It was so big. But I've been so again, that will be what impact would Ange, the impact of Ange actually had repercussions again on the southern continent. But this thinking back to history, like I looked at Leipzig, looked at Shahktar, looked at Real Madrid, right? And I'll quickly give you the scores and the games we've faced them, right? Leipzig, Celtic Park, 2-1 win. Leipzig away, 2-0 defeat away, right? Shahktar, 2 wins apiece. 2-1 win for us and a 2-0 defeat away in 2007, sorry. And then we had a 1-0 win at home. Alan Thompson scored in 2004 for a 3-0 defeat away. Real Madrid, 42 years ago, which we'll come on to in detail soon. 1-1 each since we've faced them. 2-0 at home, 3-0 away. So we have never failed to beat any of those sides at home.
Daisy, but there's a biggie in it. I know it wasn't an official game, right? But there is a biggie, and it's historically it's biggie, because we mentioned doing the tour of the Bernabeu. If you're lucky enough to do it, Alfredo Di Stefano's regarded as the greatest ever Madrid player. I know Ronaldo's done great, but he's the legend there. There's a big part of the tour, it's all about Di Stefano. And he had his testimonial the year we won the European Cup, and he'd arranged that whoever won the European Cup would go straight to Madrid from Lisbon, us or Inter were the heavy favourites, as we all know, to play them. So we won it, went to Madrid. They had their full team out because they still considered themselves to be the best team in Europe and in the world. Sellout stadium, 100,000 there in Madrid, and Celtic beat them 1-0 in what was regarded as a competitive game. But it's an important one because it's massive in the stadium. They still refer to it a lot. You see it a lot visually there. So all I'm saying is, Desi, we'll beat them over there once before. Get up them.
No, but that's the little flea game or whatever, Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, but what I was trying to point out is we have never failed to beat any of those three teams at home. Every time we've faced them, we'll beat them at home. So again, that could be your 9 points right there if fortune favours, if history favours us and fortune favours Ange. 9 points is usually enough. We've found it, I think, before 9 points wasn't enough. But it should be at least enough to progress into a Europa League place, touchwood.
The thing is with Ange's team, we've all spoken about this. I mean, you mentioned, Ralph mentioned when Rangers played Leipzig in the semi-finals last season. But how Van Bronckhorst sets his team up and how Ange sets them up are light years apart. Yeah. Ange won't park the bus and try and hit a counter. Ange is going to press high. So all I'm trying to say the roundabout way is we could get spanked 3-0. Or guess what? We could go there and win by a couple of goals. You just don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen with Celtic. I think that's one of the exciting things, really, isn't it?
Yeah. And you seen that in the Betis game last year? Yeah. You seen that first 25 minutes, go 2-0 up. You're like, fucking hell, this is brilliant. You know, Ayeti scored, I think, and Juranovic got a penalty. And we didn't know how to close it out because we lacked the belief, we lacked the application to keep playing with the system.
We had no depth in squad after 60
minutes.
Minutes.
Exactly. So just and we didn't have. Or we said when he got the job after all the rants that it would take 3 transfer windows before you could say that this is his team and his squad. So we had the bonus of how good we became really quickly under him. And now you can see this kind of evolution in his system. So I don't think, as gung-ho as we'll be, I think we're probably a lot more streetwise as a team than I think we as fans give them credit for, because there's tweaks and little things that happen, and I think they're happening in real time now. I think Postecoglou has them a lot more smarter, and the fact that he's able to work with them in a pre-season, you're seeing even the Aberdeen game not really getting out of gear. There's still that gap, by the way, just if we get tactical for a second, there's still the gap that Hatate leaves right through the middle. And that's a coaching thing as much as a positional thing. I think he'll become more aware of that. Every game where we've been opened up and they should have scored that we've played so far this season, it's been that gap. You know, and the Aberdeen one for me was a glaring example of that. So with tweaks and with the squad depth that's there now, you're absolutely right. We've nothing to fear, but we could get absolutely cuffed.
Leverkusen, remember, was it we 2-1 up, and then the last 15 minutes we just had nothing left. Leverkusen's in the Champions League this season. You know, so we've done well. It's just, I think we needed that depth, that streetwise mentality, that bit of added ability and time for Ange to work. So, as I say, it's exciting because you don't quite know what the fuck's going to happen.
Yeah. Like Bodo Glimt, by the way, that torture was. They took Dynamo Zagreb to extra time in their qualifier last night. They were very, very unlucky not to go through. So it shows you the teams that turned us a little bit. While we might have been very, very harsh about the fact that these aren't household names, or we should have done better, blah blah blah. You look at how they're now progressing, and this happened before actually with Rodgers. I think when Leipzig and Salzburg started making their breakthrough. We came up against teams that we thought we'd do fine against, but they were equally on an upward curve and they kept going. So the quality of opposition and how we fared with them last year, I think will stand us really, really good for the three teams we want to play. Madrid is the bonus territory, but to your point, slow starters, get them early, you never know. Shahktar, you're probably looking at it's a straight shootout, but again, we're maybe not giving them credit. Maybe that they've got a cause to play for. Maybe it's going to galvanise them. And Leipzig, if you look at the way Leipzig fucking collapsed, I think, last year in the semi-final at Ibrox, they're not to be feared. They've sold a few. Yeah, they brought Werner back, as you pointed out, Hector, but I wouldn't fear them. Especially watching them last year, I thought they were very, very naive, very, very young, very naive team. And they just got turned over by a more streetwise outfit. So, but it's a great draw, a cracking draw. And 3 cracking trips, by the way, if you fancy Warsaw.
I'm just looking at Leipzig here.
Game of the season, by the way. Two defeats.
Yep.
Two defeats,
One each with Stuttgart, two draws. One each with Stuttgart, two each with Cologne, and then they get beat with Union Berlin 2-1.
And Munich turned them over. Munich turned them over in the German Super Cup.
Just checking here, Hector. It's almost a year to the day since we got humped, and the YouTube title is Visitors Run Riot at Celtic when we get humped 4-0 by Bayer Leverkusen at home. Remember, that was when Leverkusen midfielder came out and says we knew exactly how we were going to play. We knew exactly how Celtic were going to play. So that guy just sat in the middle of the pitch and just put balls in the channel every time because he knew the fullback. So again, as Monty's saying, it'll be interesting to see if Ange has evolved. Right, before we come to Real Madrid historical, Ralph, a quick round the table. We were in Group F. After today's draw, what would you say the F stands for in Group F?
Phenomenal.
What?
Phenomenal.
Good to see you. I blame the schools. Anyway, Hector?
Fighting chance.
Oh, well, this is like the worst episode of Blankety Blank ever. So we get a phenomenal fighting chance. There's the wish list. And Monty?
Fucking get into them. I haven't a clue.
No, that's right. I'm going for fantastic because as soon as Madrid came out that the night, literally, I tweeted straight away. Celtic have got Madrid. Team 3 don't care. Team 4 don't care. I didn't even wait till it showed you the wee table because it was just that way. We've been waiting 42 years. And I don't know, Hector, did you go? I was at the game. I was at the 42 years ago. I was at Parkhead that night. Were you there?
No, I wasn't there. 1980, I wasn't there, no. I remember as a kid, though, the highlights, because it was like 10:30 at night and a school night, staying up late. And we won 2-0, didn't we? And it was, the one that sticks in my head is always the Johnny Doyle header. To make it 2-0, I think it was, wasn't it? Doyle header. We're
going to come to Derek Ray in the corner. Find me, Ralph, were you there at the home game the last time?
I wasn't. I watched it on the telly, and about an hour ago I watched it again. You know, the highlights. And I'm amazed how much 42 years have made a difference to what actually happened and what I remember happened.
Yeah, so let's just look. Well, again, my abiding memory, and Hector, you and I have kind of talked about this before, but abiding memory, one of the memories is the return leg being during dinner time. It was like 5 o'clock, remember? They were watching it on the TV. I think it was like BBC 2 or whatever, but it was on the TV, and that was a big thing back then. These days it's obviously nothing, but actually be able to watch it live at that point, and then the 3-0, just watching Celtic wilt in the kind of Bernabeu, that was a sad.
We missed us. I remember sitting
at the table, eating my dinner, watching the football was a big thing. It was weird.
We missed a sitting in Madrid though. I'm not sure if it was Davy Provan, we missed an absolute sitter. But my recollection in that game, being a youngster, in the game in Madrid, was Laurie Cunningham.
That's what I was going to say.
And it was something specific about Laurie Cunningham. He's taking a corner kick. He's the only player I've ever seen to this day hit a corner kick. You know how where people tend to, from the right-hand side, a right footer will kind of hit it and it swings out the way, or a left footer will curl it in. He's the only player I've seen to this day hit a corner with the outside of his right foot to swing it in and goal. I've never seen MD do it since then. I don't know why, because the pace and power he got, probably the skill to do it was phenomenal, right? But Laurie Cunningham, great player.
Yeah, he was that.
Was Peter Latchford pulled up for taking 3 steps, and it kind of seemed to upset the team because Madrid scored just before half time, and at that point it looked like we were going to get through. And then after that, we kind of fell apart, and it was a young team, as we'll come back to later on when we talk about the team that played that day.
Yeah. So I think I did a quick look at the lineup, Ralph. So we had big Peter Latchford in goal, Alan Snedden, Danny McGrain was the captain, Roy Aitken, big Roddy McDonald then, I'm assuming. McDonald.
Yep.
Tam McAdam, David Provan, George McCluskey, Bobby Lennox, Murdo McLeod, Johnny Doyle. And then Real Madrid, I'm not sure if that's the first game or the second game, but Real Madrid, Ramon, Sabido, Hernandez, Benito, I'll skip number 6, Juanito, De La Santos, Santilia, Uli Stilica, remember that name?
What a player, great moustache,
And then number 11, Laurie Cunningham. But at number 6,
I know who it is.
One of the greatest managers of all time who hardly ever gets mentioned these days.
Del Bosque. And by the way, he was a proper playmaker. He was the number 6, like no a defensive mid, like a Pirlo style player. You'd never seen as a manager for your generation, younger generation.
A puppet string puller.
You see these guys, you think, this guy was your absolute playmaker, number 6, right foot, left foot, 10-yard, 30-yard passes. What a centre mid Del Bosque was.
That's what I'm saying. Like he's a bit like Bob Paisley, I think. He never seems to get the kind of praise. He never gets included in the chats about great managers. Like Brian Clough, obviously wonderful manager. Like he gets the rightful kudos. Alex Ferguson, etc. Marino and all that. But I always think Del Bosque always seems to get overlooked somehow.
I'm sure in Spain he does, Desi.
Oh well, but even here, like, you still think I don't think Bob Paisley gets the rightful recognition he actually deserves, to be honest. But Del Bosque, I just smiled when I saw that because I've always liked him. I always thought he was a great man, a football man.
On the subject of rightful recognition for greats and great managers, surely there's a shout out for Amania and Nicosia going through the Europa League the first time of asking.
Is that because I was wondering what time was that tonight? Has that happened already?
That earlier this afternoon, yeah, they beat a Belgian team 2-0 home, 2-0 away, 4-0 they won into the Europa League.
Smart.
He's got a good deal of European experience.
That's it.
What would you expect?
Oh, I don't know. I could see Stoke City coming in for their manager quite quickly. I could see that happening. Well, I'll be interested to see. I don't know how Hearts are getting on at the moment. Hopefully they're getting gubbed, but
nothing.
0-0.
Well, fingers crossed they go. But it would be interesting if they did get Hearts, if Hearts did progress the Europa League and Neil Lennon did get to come back to Tinkers. That would be very interesting.
That'd be a fun one.
But let's just go back 42 years in, Ralph. You sat and watched the game for 42 years ago. What was your? You had a few kind of takeaway moments. What were the highlights for you?
The mud, first of all. What were we talking about? March, that was a European Cup.
Yeah.
Right. Get into perspective. That was a European Cup quarter-final with a fairly new team that had one European Cup winner in the squad, in the first team even, and a European Cup winner and as a manager, and a European Cup winner as assistant manager. So we were still kind of a big name. We were still kind of a major player in Europe. But you could see that I looked at the lineup with 2 in midfield. And you can understand maybe why they get a wee bit too much space. I recommend anybody to watch it on YouTube because there's a couple of things that you maybe think are sticking in your mind from the game that didn't actually happen. We had McLeod and Aitken in midfield. We had two wingers, Proven and Doyle, and we had two forwards, McCluskey and Lennox, which surprised me. The first thing I noticed was that's your two guys up front. There's a question I'm going to ask all three of you and see if you can get it. Who provided a real bone cruncher of a tackle that led to Alan Snedden getting the ball and crossing it for Johnny Doyle to score the second goal?
I wouldn't have a clue, Ross.
Roy Aitken.
I'll go for a shock, David Proven.
You've just watched it.
No, I'm just looking at I'm looking at the team list I've just read out to you. I'm just guessing that was a shock because I don't remember him tackling Sleep.
Did Davy Proven ever tackle anybody?
In a kind of left back position, won the ball, shoulder to shoulder, face on, and then laid it out to Alan Snedden, who went away and crossed the ball. The other question: who had a shot on goal, clutched, and I mean clutched, out from under, that would have made it 3-0? It was a belted shot, space, and he hit it sweetly, and the goalie made a great save. Who had that shot in the dying moments of the game?
I'll go for Big Tom McAdam. Victor?
Roddy McDonald.
Monty, you're on mute. We'll get the classic.
Don't comprehend it. Wouldn't have a clue. I don't have a McAdam. I'd have guessed because I wouldn't have a clue.
He wasn't a Celtic fan then, Desi?
No.
In that time.
Oh, no, he was still a Liverpool fan back then.
When he turned up with Dermot's investment, that's it.
Rewind, look at it again. It was Danny McGrain.
Oh,
well,
was it heading in the corner flag like the old days?
Danny McGrain, honestly. And it was going in, and the keeper kind of leapt across like a salmon or a cat or whatever, and he caught it with one hand. And I looked at it and I thought, that wasn't the game I seen. Honestly, we were unlucky, and now it's time for payback.
Yeah, but the thing again, I've been enjoying like the footballs this went back, and there's been quite a lot of my son or my daughter or whoever first game pictures and sweet stories getting put up on Twitter, and it's a joy, and like the Kano Foundation taking all the kids to their first games and all that. There's been some wonderful weekend and new fresh pictures of fresh faces experience Celtic Park for the first time. So again, I was listening to your talk about it, Ralph, and then that Real Madrid game. I mean, like Laurie Cunningham playing keepy-ups with the ball and all these sort of things. But like even then, the Ajax game with Cruyff and Jesper Olsen. Like I still remember like that was like something out of the movie, like walking up the kind of stair and into that whole atmosphere. I can still remember that. And like you could hardly walk down the steps. It was that busy. It was mobbed. I mean, like
that's one of the best games I've ever seen. See that Celtic 2 Ajax 2 game where you're right, Cruyff and Jesper Olsen. That was one of the best attacking end-to-end games to this day I've ever been at and seen.
But you know what I mean? Like so I was thinking about it, like as in this Madrid game. This could be this generation or the next generation coming through. Can you imagine being a wee boy or a wee girl going to that game? I mean, like that game coming up. This touchwood, it's dark enough to get a disco lights. If we can get an atmosphere like we had against Rangers last season, because that's probably the best atmosphere we have generated in a long, long time. That 3-0 game against Rangers when we put the lights out and turned the lights on the Celtic team. That if we can do that in the Champions League, that'd be one of the greatest. Like I'm talking about a game from 42 years ago. Ralph was saying. So I mean, like it'd be great if the kids could get the similar memories through this Champions League group. Maybe no Shahktar or Leipzig, but touch wood the Real Madrid game.
Well, they've got the Barcelona one, haven't they, from a few years ago, right? I know that's come back a few years.
No, that's a very good point.
But you've got the Barcelona one where we beat them, and obviously 2-1 when it was 2-0. They scored in injury time. We beat Man United, the Nakamura free kick, probably just a wee bit before that. Beat Milan, who were European champions. So we probably had about 3 or 4 fantastic wins within about a 5-6 year span. But there's not been anything Lazio, does Lazio count? Oh, that was great. Does that?
Exactly.
You know what I'm trying to say? Madrid's a different level, isn't it? The Madrid's the Barcelona's the United. It's a proper European champions team, isn't it?
And I think, Hector, just to add to that, I think we need to, because we've approached things differently, it seems, in the last 2 years with the changing of the guard, and because it looks like we've backed the manager in a different way than we backed the previous managers. And I know, Phil McGillivine has, he makes some good points, some not so good, but the one point he did make was we seemed to roll the dice at the start of the season on Europe. Because we didn't budget for it, it was a bonus. So we never really seemed to invest in a way that would give the manager the best possible chance of getting there, rightly or wrongly. We've done that, and it's won us the league, and it's got us now into the Champions League. Win the league again this season, we get directly into the Champions League. I think the year after, depending on performance, the next two I think is where it's affected. My point in all that context is it would be lovely to get to a point for this window of the next 5 or 6 years that we're not talking about these as wistful one-off things, that we get to compete at that level again. And there's signs that the Lazio home and away results, let's not take away from it in the middle of a shitstorm. They're fucking phenomenal. They're up there. They're top tier results that we achieved, albeit in the second competition. So if we can achieve some results like that in the top competition, it's not to say we're going to be a permanent fixture in the Champions League. I don't think we ever could suggest that. Unless there's a guaranteed spot for Scotland all the time and it's something to play for. But I would love it that we don't be as wistful and don't talk about things from 42 years ago, notwithstanding the fact that they're lovely memories. You made a lot of good points. Just
a couple of things, thinking out loud here. I'd always thought that our best stroke only chance of really doing well in the European Cup stroke Champions League in the modern era. And we all know about the constraints with these so-called Big Five leagues, purely driven by the money they've got, and that's it. But what I've always felt is that the only way we could get there, and I mean getting there, not just getting to the group, but potentially getting to the last 16, finishing first, second, whatever, maybe even getting a lucky draw, or the team being far better than we visualised getting to the final 8. The point I'm trying to make is this: always felt it had to be a kind of model based upon a young, fast, dynamic team. Yes. Ideally, the thought process was going to be probably have to be homebred to allow us to afford that type of model. The thing I didn't consider was that we could potentially have a manager who has not got a bone of fear in his fucking body, right? And that's vital. It's not through stupidity or being oblivious to who he's up against. It's just, this is how I'm doing it.
Yep.
Spreading that core belief. And not only that, it's to players who play a system that he wants them to play fast, quick, interplay, left wing, right wing, falling deep. We've actually probably got that. If not this year, it might be the next 2, 3, 4 years if we can keep him. That gives us a sniff of doing just that.
Yep.
And that's the only way I've ever felt we could do it. And actually, maybe Stern is right in front of us right now. We go and get pumped in these 6 games and go, what did that podcast? You spoke a lot of shit as per normal. But there's a sniff there. There's a sniff that by doing it and taking it to teams. If you sit back and defend all the time, 9 times out of 10 you'll lose. 9 times out of 10. You'll get that 1 in 10, you'll get a wee luck in the Champions League.
Absolutely.
Like we did against Barcelona at home. Right? The battered us and we won. But if you take it to these teams, you press them and they're not used to it. They're not used to teams having a go at them. And who knows? It might not be this year, it might be next year, the year after. There's a sniff, me, Ange, we could just get beyond the group stages.
And that shouldn't, and again, all very positive and totally agree, but that shouldn't be the limit of our ambitions either. And I don't believe for a second it's the limit of his ambition. But you got to start somewhere. Let's get out of this group.
You've got to show us the money first. No, I don't mean show us money as in the board. I mean, Ange, show us it. Give us the evidence to show we are improving.
Get us past this stage, and then the belief just flows.
Right. Okay. I was going to start on something else, which would bring us to an end, Paul. But I'll start at the end and come back to this, right? Because you just kind of talked about it a minute ago, Monty. Ralph, we'll start with you. Monty just touched on the Lazio results. One of the interesting things about the Lazio results, of course, the guys who won their games, Olivier Njam and Christopher Julian, both of them are no longer at the club. So Ralph, big Julien's off to Montpellier. Are you sad to see him go?
Yeah, kind of. Because he's definitely a great player, but his attitude stunk. You know that I've been talking about this for the last 12 months or something. It goes back to the French guys ignoring what the gaffer said and getting out, and 3 of them coming back with COVID. I'm just glad that that's over and done with now. I'm glad now we've got players that want to play for Celtic, that want to, I don't know if it's to maybe follow their own career, or just that they're happy to be at a place where they're supported 100% by the supporters, and they're playing in a system that they enjoy.
Yeah. For me, again, I think, like, obviously every fan wishes him well. It was just a strange fork in the road, that post, hitting his knee against that post, after, like, the League Cup, winning the League Cup final for us, that Lazio goal, as Monty mentioned, all those great kind of iconic, the knee slide, those iconic moments, and then it all just kind of petered out, and then it started being like wee videos from sitting in the stand. And I think we all held out a hope that he was going to come back. He was going to get that time to recuperate and then come back and then gradually work. And I don't know, Hector, what was your thoughts? Did you think he had the potential to be the ideal player beside like a Carter Vickers, i.e. somebody could run and do the dirty work and he could stride forward with the ball?
I did, because he showed evidence that he could be a commanding. His passing range was good right and left foot as well. And I thought next to Carter Vickers, who's an out-and-out, rock-solid, 7, 8 out of 10 defender, it looked like a nice balance. But what's interesting, I think Ralph has kind of touched upon it, we'll never know the full story unless Ange comes out with it and Julian comes out with it. And that'll probably happen in a few years. But I think what's happened is he's just maybe burned his bridges as a manager. And I think Ange is the kind of guy that you're either with him. If you're not on 100%, there's no place for you. And by the way, Ange will not be the first or last Celtic manager. There's a certain Mr. Jock Stein was the exact same. If you're not with him, you're at the door. And Jock Stein was ruthless. People see Jock Stein as the greatest ever manager, which he was, but some of the Lisbon Lions and how he let them go. If that happened nowadays, it'd be, you can imagine online and Twitter, people going, that was ruthless. And I think Ange just got a bit of that. Sorry, Ralph, I was just going to say, Ange came out a year ago or less, and I don't know, an interview with the Australian media, I can't remember, and basically said he never gets too close to players.
Yeah.
Because he's always got to look to get somebody better. If you build relationships with players and become pals and you get fond of them, it makes that decision making so much tougher. And I think with Julian, he's not about relationship, he's just demonstrated the ruthlessness part of his game. And I think with Ange, he won't stop until he continuously improves this team. So for us as supporters, it's great. Feel a bit hard done for Julian. But such is life. He'll go on and make good money, no doubt do well in the French league. And as you said, Desi, best of luck to the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just looking here, because that's interesting, just you mentioned that there. Like, Julian did leave that wee farewell message saying thanks to my former bosses. So again, I don't know if he feels he's never got the chance he's deserved or whatever. It didn't work out. But the same week, we also had Joe Hart coming out and praising Ange to high heaven. And I'm just going back to when Joe Hart was signed, and he was talking about when Ange signed him and how Ange is a pretty simple guy when it comes to the information he gives. He basically told me, if you come here to Joe Hart, you'll be treated with a lot of respect and we'll get a lot of responsibility. Regardless of anything that's happened, I believe in you as a goalkeeper, and that's who you'll be. And then Joe Hart came out this week when asked about Ange and said, I think the papers are trying to paint him into a corner and try to generate headlines. But basically, Joe Hart says, Ange hasn't got us feeling like we can beat anyone, but he has certainly got us feeling that if we are together, we can take anyone on and give a good account of ourselves. He doesn't like putting limits on what we can achieve, and I like living in that world. Long may it continue. So again, and Ange said that, as you said, he doesn't go into the dressing room. That's the player's domain. He feels that's their domain. And I've seen Matt O'Reilly also say that. He doesn't say much to them. He'll tell his coaches what to tell them. No, that way, he'll be the guy that He's the guy that watches and sees, and he's got the bigger vision rather than dealing with a kind of man management on a kind of every day, every moment basis. But that's Julian leaving. So we'll stick with you, Hector, for now. We've got Sead Sead. I was practicing this earlier on to.
What's his surname, Desi?
Right. And that's easy for me to say. Became Celtic's 8th summer signing today. 23-year-old joined from Rubin Kazan. It looks as though I've actually done quite well out of quite a bad situation. Previously at West Ham, but only played twice for them, I think. And he'll wear number 9, Hector.
Well, I think most of the other ones are taken.
Exactly.
Seven's taken, 10's taken.
Registered.
Yeah. I'd have gave Big Giacomakis number 9, but that's by the by, right? Do you know, we mentioned this last week. This is one of those things that okay, the forward planning, which is great to see, right? Because, you know, the scouts, Jota, reality is that they'll be getting scouted, some of these guys. So it sounds like good forward planning. The second thing we mentioned again last week was, I think it's just a gift horse staring us in the mouth. They paid, was it £6 million, Rubin Kazan, for him, and they're in financial difficulty. Their chairman's come out and said as much in the last few days or so. They're skint, they need some money. They've had a fire sale, horrible situation over there, but, you know, we've took advantage of it. So we've got the guy knocked down. I've only watched some YouTube clips. You know YouTube, right? You know, invariably they give you the best things a player, but you can see, in terms of the technique, the touch is there, left and right is there, the quick feet, the trickery, the skills there. Great, looks great on YouTube. Watched his interview today, seemed absolutely flying with positivity about coming to Celtic, how we played, what Ange should say to him. So I hope the guy can obviously play left wing, right? We've got Maeda / Jota there. The guy can properly play in the right as well. What I've read up on him. Mm-hmm. Great. We've got a bundle of players like Jota can also go to the right, and Maeda has to say, right? I'm hoping this guy's a number 10 that plays just on that wee space off the striker, who can either go left, go centre, go right, and it gives us that interchanging amongst players we've been talking about, that fluidity. It adds even more strings to our board, because I think there's a wee gap there when it comes to energy at the higher level, right? Yeah. I like O'Reilly, I like Turnbull, I like Hatate. I think there's a bit of magic, a bit of skill, just at the higher level we need in there, and I'm hoping this guy's the guy that will give us that.
I agree with you 100% there, because what I noticed about Moy when he came on against Hearts at the weekend was he was talking to Hatate. Hatate, I couldn't believe how quick he was. You know, like when you see somebody in the flesh as opposed to seeing them on TV. Hatate was quick. He was like a wee, I hate to use the word ninja because it implies the kind of Japanese thing, but he would appear wherever he was needed. And Moy was guiding him. Moy was kind of telling him where to be. And Moy, I think, is going to be...
Sorry, Ralph, you're cracking up there in the garden. What was that?
I think Agent Moy is going to be the guy that dictates the play at the higher level. I think McGregor's going to be a kind of a sidekick to him, but there's Hatate's, there's Hadsanovic, and everybody else is going to do what they tell them to do. And I think it's not micromanagement from the bench, but I think there'll be a kind of base plan. Whatever way you look at it, it's fascinating to watch. Absolutely fascinating.
Well, this is what brings me full circle to what Monty was talking about there, as in the continuity plan and looking at a couple of years down the road and hopefully fruition, things coming to fruition. So Monty, if I just go through the sections of the team, right? So goalkeeper, our oldest player at the moment is Joe Hart, right? He's 35, going on 25, realistically. Seaquist and Bain are in their 30s, but goalkeepers don't really matter. Yeah. What age, Monty, do you think is our oldest defender?
Gary, 24, Carter Vickers?
27, Starfelt.
Oh, Starfelt.
Hector's favourite player.
Sell him.
Take anything for him. Starfelt, 27. And
27.
then you've got Carter Vickers, just over 24.
So
But then you've got young James, and then you've got Jens who's on loan with an option to buy.
23.
Is that 23?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then Wells, 22. So again, there's a very young centre back pairing combination there.
Yeah.
A maximum average age of maybe 25, 26 if you're lucky at the very most.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting. Moving into fullback, who do you think's our oldest fullback? Monty, I'll start with you.
Juranovic.
What age do you think he is?
25?
27. This coming up, really about 27. So again, you've got Juranovic, 27. Taylor, this year, 24. Ralston's not even 24, even though he's been around for 100 years. And then we've got Hector's favourite, Bernabeu, who's just coming up for 22.
22.
You know what I mean? So again, it's a very young defence. That averages out at not too bad if you include Hart at 35, but it's still quite young with actual outfield players. You know what I mean? So
Could we do an experienced centre half for the squad? I'm asking the question. Could we do an experienced centre half? A good player, obviously, not just.
Could you have a Colo? Could you buy a Colo Toure there? Do you think?
I thought he was well past it. I think he was just we needed somebody at the time because we'd nobody. But I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking maybe somebody who's like maybe 30, 31, maybe he's alone for a season. A good experienced centre half that just gives us a wee bit of I don't know.
Who would you drop?
Let them all.
But it's not about drop. It's about competition and a wee bit more nous, particularly.
I'm not disagreeing. I think I'm not disagreeing with the notion of bringing in a wee bit more experience into it. But when I look at this, I just see a guy who's building something that isn't a short-term 2-year turnaround of a team. And I think in that world, I think Moyes may be the exception because you're losing that wee bit of nous in the middle. I think Postecoglou's system requires that bit of an older head, not at the back, Hector, but in the middle. And the reason I say that is his two centre-halves play wide. That's why Julien's gone. His two centre-halves play wide, which means that recovery speed, recovery pace is probably as important as positional sense. Julien would have been positionally sound, but he'd have never recovered those types of gaps. You know that this is my random amateur observation.
But 30's not old in terms of losing pace. All I'm saying is, but there's a chance to get the loan market for a year, like he did last year. Successfully, it has to be said.
Agree.
So is there an opportunity perhaps to look at the spine, the team? I think personally, I still would love us to get another centre mid with a bit of high energy and a bit of leadership about them.
So
that's just me because I'm greedy and I want the best.
We'll cover but again, okay, let's cover that because this comes in all of the time. This subject on this podcast and on Twitter and elsewhere. Where does this Wanyama / Kante super hybrid midfielder? Where does he fit in? Who do you drop in the midfield?
Doesn't matter. It's competition.
No, but
we've always had this first 11 or 14. No. You've got to have competition. Better players.
Right, no, but you're wanting, I'm not meaning you personally, because a lot of people have voiced that, right? So are you wanting a number 6 to replace Callum McGregor? Somebody to challenge Callum McGregor?
You know it's not going to happen. Right, McGregor's one of your best players. No, but what I'm getting is, if our aspirations to push on in Europe, right now, I don't think Hatate and Riley are at the level we need. They might be in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months' time. I want somebody that is at that level right now, Desi. And they've got to fight for every game of football they get. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think they're at the level McGregor's at. I think McGregor's way above the rest of that midfield. I'd love somebody else to come in who can push, who can complement McGregor.
Right. Let me throw a curve. Let me throw a curve. Humour me with a curveball then. United have just signed Casemiro. They've signed Casemiro because they don't believe that McTominay is capable of playing the position. Would you take someone like Scott McTominay?
I don't think he's good enough, Monty, if I'm honest with you, for our midfield.
So that's what I'm saying. So now you're setting the bar as to where you would find that particular player.
Well, that's not my job, right?
Yes. No.
That's our scouting department's job to do that, right? There's thousands of players in the world, and there'll be guys not getting a game. And Ange's been brilliant at it so far, by the way. He's using his own scouting network.
But he brought in players on loan to let them see what Celtic was about with a realistic option to sign.
Yep.
So someone from a top tier team who's not getting a game, who's got a bit of experience, like we were linked with Barkley, that died all of a sudden. Did he go somewhere?
No, he's in the reserve. He's training with the reserves with Billy Gilmore and one of the other. One of the other ones. One of the like feature. Oh, the Alonso is it?
Alonso.
Yeah.
So there's a player who fits exactly the profile you're talking about. Athletic, mobile, defensive, experienced. He's made all his money. So if he's anything about him that is, I actually want to win things, I actually want to prove myself, which is, and again, you look at the profile of the player that Postecoglou is saying, you look at the mentality of them, you look at how Haksabanovic spoke, perfect English, he's got that hunger, he's got that same fucking eye of the tiger thing going on. If Barkley's the guy, you're not going to give him $100,000 a week, we will never pay those wages ever, we never even get near it.
See, Haksabanovic is a great example you've just said there. A lot of folk would have went, why are we signing it? They would have done, we've already had things on, why are we signing a guy like that? We've got a left winger, we've got a... No, because it's forward planning, it's competition for places, and it's adding quality, more quality. All I'm saying is, I don't think we have enough quality in our centre midfield.
Right.
I really don't.
Right.
I don't think Riley and Hatate's done enough for me to show us evidence-wise that in Europe they can go to a level. Well, based on what I've seen so far, they've done okay domestically, but they've not been as good as I think some people have portrayed. In my
Another
Tony Kroos and Luka Modric are going to be passing their way around them in a couple of weeks. So now you're going to get to see where they're really at. Sorry, Desi.
Sorry, Monty. Another approach to that argument. Hector, you went to watch the Celtic B team play Gretna the other week.
Yep.
And one of the things you came back with was Bosun Law should leave that team immediately and go and play with a St Mirren stroke Aberdeen, whatever. A team playing competitive football where he will be challenged and he will develop and he will progress professionally. Are you then saying it's okay to remove Hatate and O'Reilly to replace them with somebody better, which will then stop them developing because they're not getting actual experience of playing against these teams to then come on next season and the season beyond that?
But if they're better, surely that's the end points to have better players.
It's the short term versus long term. This is what I'm asking.
But then, if a better player comes in, surely competition for them means that they have to raise their game and be better on a regular basis. Is that no everyone's a winner?
I know what you're saying. In an ideal world, somebody comes in and they're inspirational and it shows somebody they've got to raise their game. But ultimately, when it comes to that team sheet, that other person's name's there. They're not getting the game time. They're maybe getting some exposure and training, but it doesn't actually transfer into game time. They're suddenly sitting with a face like Ronaldo watching the game the other night because they're not actually getting on the pitch.
Well, they shouldn't be there then. Ange will chase them.
But the whole point, like, so Hatate, 24, O'Reilly, not even 22. And I mean, I know you're just using him as an example, and we're thinking totally positive here. We're not arguing, but it'd be an ideal world if we could say get a Ross Barkley example again. I'm not saying what it is, but a Ross Barkley example of a player who lifts the levels. And Ange has always said that's what he's looking for. But we've already had Monty discussing that whole thing about building the team to bring them on and over the years. So I don't know, it's a very tough food to be a football manager, Ralph. It's a very hard balance.
Absolutely agree with you. And we've all got the same aspiration, right? We all want Celtic to be successful. And if you can be successful and play really good football, but all the better. We can see Ange's building. Ange has been very, very upfront. Typical Aussie in terms of what he wants to do next. He's always looking to improve. I just think the transfer window shuts in a week's time. We're in the Champions League. Ange has successfully tapped into the loan market. Even this season with Jens, he's got an agreement in there with him. Potentially next season signing if it goes well. I would love us to sign a centre mid who gives us that experience, that energy, that level of skill that I think other than McGregor we don't have enough of. We see wee snippets from Hatate. We see wee snippets from O'Reilly. I just think there's a lack of consistency there, which may come with them. 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, it may come. Hopefully it does. I just like to see somebody else in there for this season.
Right, Moy if you watch, I don't know, during the game against Hearts at the weekend there, I was watching McGregor after Moy come on, and McGregor deferred to him 100%. You could see it in the body language. You could also see that Moy was talking to the other players in a way that McGregor doesn't. Ange didn't sign Moy because he's you're kind of 100% fit, all up and at him player. Moy was signed for his intelligence and experience. We've already got that guy.
It's interesting. Interesting.
Yep. I couldn't believe it. The first thing Hatate done was run over to him and ask him what he was going to do. He didn't ask McGregor. McGregor's the captain. He asked Moy.
But McGregor. But no, that's interesting now. Like, again, I'm with you because I think Moy is that. He comes on, takes over that number 6 role. McGregor then moves forward. McGregor doesn't go for a rest, he moves forward. And that's why I think it's been back to Moy, because Moy's the guy that's going to be playing the ball to Hatate, where McGregor's on the other side, if you know what I mean, rather than... So Hatate's looking to gather the ball off of Moy. And I think that's exactly what he was saying to him, as in, where about it be and where are you going to let it go, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of off-the-ball stuff between Moy and Hatate at the weekend, and that caught my eye. So maybe I was watching that a wee bit more than I should have done. But McGregor's body language told me that he was deferring the way the game was running over to Moy.
Does anybody know, Hector just made me suddenly start thinking of players who are available. Does anybody know if Danny Drinkwater actually retired? There's an international available for free at 32 years of age, Hector.
I think Hector's just...
Oh, see, well, he's probably lucky he's not hearing me saying Danny Drinkwater. But yeah, so I think Moy's very interesting, Ralph, because we all assumed he was here just to get some game time for the World Cup, and then it would just peak and then he would gradually disappear towards the end of the season and never be seen again. That kind of idea. But he's totally replaced McCarthy. I can't see McCarthy even getting that on the bench again, ever. Let's be honest. And then, Monty, when you go for Moy at 32, you're doing to McGregor just over 28, just at 28, 29 as your oldest midfielder. And then we're into the real young, we've got a really young midfield when you take McGregor out of it. Idaguchi's 26, Hatate's 24, Turnbull's 23 and O'Reilly's not even 22.
Yeah.
So yeah. Is it better to be exposed at a young age and then get a bloody nose? Remember the Brendan Rodgers, or is it better to just put an older experienced guy in there to stem the flow for now and hopefully the guys learn in training?
Well, you're not going to win the Champions League this year, right? Let's be honest. It's highly unlikely we would win the Europa League, but you have a shot at it. In that type of environment, and I think if you look at what Postecoglou did with Hatate towards the end of last season, he ran him until he was empty. Mm-hmm. I think that's exactly what he'll do. He'll go in there. You're not going to learn until you get out and get cuffed and get a bloody nose and take a battering, or you go there, you perform, you believe in the system, and all of a sudden you realise you can compete with these guys. There's brilliant psychology in the way that he goes about setting up his teams with no fear. Because if you've no fear, there's consequence in everything that you do, but if you're going into an environment where you're protected, as in, if you do your job and we still get cuffed, it's not your fault, it's my fault, I set you up wrong, or we just got beat by a better team. That gives players such fucking incredible, it gives them cojones. Where, to Hector's earlier point, you park the bus, you're afraid of making a mistake, you hoof the ball, comes back at you. Fear is an awful demotivator and it can destroy. So my point is, I think we're not going to get that guy unless there's an absolute gem available, Hector, at the right money. And I think, to Ralph's point, Moy getting fitter could well be that guy for this season. But I do still think he'll stick with exactly, irrespective of their age, he'll put them in, he'll get them to play the system, and if we get cuffed, we get cuffed. And sure, how are you going to learn if you don't?
But I don't think we're kind of set up the way that Rodgers' team was.
We cuffed, Ange's teams got cuffed last year, Ralph. Have we learned from last year, do you think?
Yeah.
Should find out.
Yeah.
That's the question, isn't it? I'm not being negative. I'm just saying it would be interesting to see if we have evolved from last year, i.e. have our fullbacks learned to tuck in but also be ready to cover when needed. Have the overlapping, have the wing backs been able to come back a little bit more than they're used to? No, that kind of idea. It'll be interesting.
But the beauty is, Desi, we're not going up against like for like. We've gone from a fucking level 7 to a level 11 on the nipple clamp. You know, it's not going to be easy. We're going up against Real Madrid. Your benchmark isn't Betis or Leverkusen. It's Real Madrid.
But again, that's is that even more of a worry then? Because again, it always comes back to the whole Rodgers. These guys will learn from this. No, they won't. They won't actually, Brendan. You know what I mean? Because you wouldn't be here, they wouldn't be there. You know what I mean?
The exception of Cal Mack playing left back, they're all gone. So Rodgers' turnover of his team was 2 years. All of the guys that he's saying, all of the guys that Postecoglou saying are on 5-year contracts.
Well, this is what I'm looking. So we're into the wingers now, right? Apart from Forrest, which is your outlier, and again we've talked about it before. That's really just a testimonial payment, we think. Mikey Johnson, I don't think anybody expects him to be there by September the 1st. But you've got Abada, 21, Haksabanovic, 23, Maeda, 25, Jota, 23. That's your wingers. So again, a very young wing, and then your forward line is your highest average of an actual age, and that's Kyogo and Giacomakis at 27. Ajeti again, we're looking to dump him. So it'll be interesting. So again, do you also look for a backup striker, Hector? We've only got 2 recognised strikers.
We've only got 2.
We're assuming Maeda's a backup striker, and Haksabanovic could play as a backup 10 and behind the striker.
Don't know, kind of guessing. But right now we know we've got 2. Right? Mm-hmm. Kyogo, the benefit of Kyogo, he can also play wide if needed. But it looks like his striker's his best position. But we've actually got 2 players. So what happens if one gets injured? Which is number of games we're going to have is a strong chance. So we probably do need a third striker.
Would you do what you suggested for midfield in the striker role? There's a cracking fella looking to play Champions League this season just down the road in Manchester, looking for a Champions League club.
No, not with a
Sergio Aguero, has he not got another team?
Who's that?
Not with a
Aguero, has he not got another team in it?
Well, would you not take the world's greatest footballer for a season at 35, fit as he is?
Imagine the squad, this harmony would be gone about a week, wouldn't it?
Do you think?
Toys out the pram, dummy out. Oh my goodness. Oh no.
Can you imagine that, like the other week's example, Jota cutting through and shooting where Maeda's standing in the middle of the 6-yard box waiting for a tap in? Can you imagine that happens to Ronaldo? He'd probably walk right off the park. You know what I mean? So no, I couldn't even see it. Not a hope.
So question for the threes then, right? Now we've seen the group. I want a prediction from you all. Now we know the opponents. So Ralph, you still on, Ralph? It's hell of a dark.
It's hell of a black and Stoke. We're looking at the Stoke sky, everyone, if you're wondering.
Where's Ralph?
Maybe Ralph's already. Oh, there he is. He's back.
There he is. It's something at the X-Files, isn't it?
Blair Witch Project again.
Folks, you've got to see this. We're going to have to share the videos sometime.
Ralph's built a man shed to put any lights in it.
Right, Ralph, what are you going for? 6 games, Madrid home and away, Shahktar and Leipzig. What do you think? How many points do you think we'll get, and where do you think we'll finish in the group?
That's tricky because the biggest problem we'll have is that we're going to focus on the 2 games against Madrid. Because that's the thing. That's the players are going to look to that, the manager's going to look to that. And I think we'll get 4 points out of that. We'll get 2 wins at home, which will give us a total of 10. And Leipzig beat the Rangers, so we'll get 3 points away, plus a bonus 2 for not laughing at them. Shahktar probably won't be playing, so we'll probably finish on about 32.
Aye, that's your typical Stoke mathematics there for you. Right, I was going to go for history to repeat itself, and we would win 3 at home and lose 3 away. But I'll go for We'll win 2 at home, we'll draw away Madrid at home, and we'll lose the 3 away. I think we'll be too naive away from home.
So 7 points, and where do you think we'll finish in the group?
I think we'll just scrape for
40.
Can I just point out that I really don't want to be sitting next to Desi at any of those games?
How? I'm just being realistic. You're sitting there in the pitch black. At least I know how to put a light on. You know what I mean? You think we're getting 32 points out of possible, 18?
For goodness sakes, we'll win all 3 home games. We'll probably win 3 away games and win the dress club.
And we'll get a bonus for being the best dressed team in the Champions League group stages.
I have one caveat before giving the number, which is if the first match is at home or away against Madrid, I think we'll finish on 11 points and finish second.
Ooh.
Right. If it isn't against Madrid, home or away, first match, I think we'll finish on 8 points and still finish second.
8 points finishing second?
Yeah, I think it'll be enough. I think Madrid will remove any threat from Shahktar. Madrid will take 4 points off Leipzig. It's whether we catch them on the hop first or get them at the end at home when they've nothing to play for and they play a B team and we need something. Yeah, I do. I genuinely do. And if you want to know, I think we'll beat Shahktar home and away. I think we'll draw and get beat by Leipzig. And then, draw, 2 draws, or maybe we'll win 1 and lose 1 against Leipzig, and then the Madrid match is kicking. But I think we'll get 11 points out of it.
Wow. All right.
I like to say there you go. Nice optimism, Ralph. We'll love you. Hector, where you going for? Tactician extraordinaire.
I think we'll beat Shahktar at home. I think we'll get a point away to Shakhtar's 4. I think we'll beat Leipzig at home. I think we'll get pumped away by Leipzig. That gives us 7. And I think at home to Madrid, we sneaky feeling we could take something. Say a draw. 8 points.
That's my 8.
And I'm not sure whether that'll be enough for second or third. At least third. Probably third. But as you said, it might be enough. I don't know.
Like, everybody's going to be, out of the 3 other teams apart from Madrid, if you get something against Madrid, you've got the advantage. Because the 3 of us are probably all on a par. But I think we have an advantage over Shahktar that we've talked about. And I think also looking at Leipzig.
Well, Leipzig will finish second because they'll beat Shahktar home and away, I think. And they'll beat us in Germany. So I think we'll finish third with 8 points.
Yeah, I think a few of you are a wee bit over optimistic at this stage of the Celtic progression, but fingers crossed.
Many points did you have?
7. I get 2.
I said 8.
That's all right.
What did you say 8?
Listen, I said a few.
You're referencing one person who's wired to the fucking room.
I said a few of you, not all of you. I never carved you with that brush, Hector. Just a certain 2 people at the bottom of the screen. That was all. I think it might be, again, as Monty alluded to earlier, this is a work in progress, moving through, as in, get a couple of wins at home, maybe a couple of good performances away, and even if it's defeats, but this good performances, getting to know the game a wee bit more. Again, it's going to be a massive experience for your O'Reillys and your Hitatis, you know what I mean? And again, it'll be interesting, Joe Hart at the back, Joe Hart McGregor, there may be scope for some more experience into the squad, as you say, Hector. When you think about it, Moyes not really get that European experience. So it's not as if he's an elder statesman coming in. I don't think McCarthy's got that playing in Europe experience either, has he? And I can't see him being there. So if they do manage to, we can wrap it up now, but if they do manage to move a few players on before the weekend's out, there may be scope for possibly a Ross Bartley, who knows? Do you think we could possibly, yes or no, do you think we could possibly see the fans heading up the Celtic way at midnight for the close of the transfer window as a new sensational purchase is made? Can you see that happening, Monty? Do you think Dermot's going to get the chequebook out? What's his chances?
I genuinely, and I know Hector's against it for all sorts of personnel reasons, I would fucking love us just to pull a Ronaldo out of a hat for a year. Just serious.
I can only apologise.
All you have to do
is manage to listen to this.
Listen to Roy Keane.
I can only apologise.
Listen to Roy Keane talk about Ronaldo.
Roy Keane's fucking mental.
But talking about Ronaldo's professionalism. Ronaldo's at a club that is just a fucking shambles.
Come on.
Fucking hell, man.
Stop. See, this is what happens when you don't drink during the podcast.
I'm on the second.
Exactly. You need to drink more. This is no use. Thing, mate. Absolutely no thanks. It's amazing to think you're saying no thanks to Ronaldo, but no, no.
But yes, I'd love us to do a signature, but I don't think it's Postecoglou style either. If we're going
I don't think so. I don't think it is either.
I want to sign someone, it's for the medium to long term, or give someone a shot at Celtic, and if they like it, do a deal off it.
See, with that I would disagree, because I think Hector did touch on something earlier on. Raising the quality of the squad, he's always talked about being open to that. So if he did get maybe the chance of a Sunday afternoon phone call coming back to Dundee to be told Mr. X, Y or Z is available, what do you think? And he suddenly thought, wait a minute, that fills that gap that I really need. Then who knows? Could be surprising come. So what's that? When are we?
Right, hold on. The one thing that I've noticed that is different from with Postecoglou to any other manager, going back to maybe McNeil, is that he'll say to them, do you want to Celtic? And if they don't say yes straight away, if they need to be convinced he's not interested, your man Riley McGree was the proof of that.
Yeah.
That's it. Either want to play.
Interesting that the phone call from Ange seems to have replaced the David Murray private jet in terms of convincing players that they should come up to Glasgow. Every one of them spoke about the fact that Postecoglou's talked to them and told them where they fit and what they're going to do. Every one of his signings have talked about the fact that the manager has spoken to them a lot in advance of them signing for Celtic. And again, it might sound simple, it might sound trite.
Yeah,
Haksabanovic, by the way, Bilic never played Haksabanovic because Haksabanovic was signed above his head. The guy turned up for training and Bilic literally went, who the fuck's that? Swear to God. You'll find it on West Ham.
Is that how you pronounce it?
Haksabanovic.
No, but who the fuck's that? Is that how you pronounce it?
Who the fuck's Ivanovic, yeah.
But it's interesting. Ange seems to talk a lot to them before they sign, and then when they do come, he doesn't actually say
talk to them.
So that's the best thing. Right, so basically we've got until a week a day, the 1st of September. So it'll be interesting to see if we do have anybody getting shipped out, and possibly, I think if we manage to ship out a Johnson and a McCaffrey or a Jetty, then maybe that will free up a wee 20-30 grand a week. I mean, who knows, for a wee loan deal.
Covers 30% of Cristiano's basic. So, yeah.
I would cover his suntan lotion. So that's us. So everybody's happy with the draw.
Look, I couldn't be. When Postecoglou got the job, I said, we've got a guy that knows what he wants. I looked into him, and now that he's actually putting stuff together, I'm staying off the drink, I'm going to the Fitba, I'm watching it again, and I'm loving what I'm seeing. We're on the cusp of something special.
Okay, I like that, and I'd just like to say, Ralph's contribution has been sponsored by what apparently looks like mixed fruit Copperberg once more. So to James Fleeting, who asked us if we could keep Ralph off the cider tonight, I'm very sorry. But given his Ronaldo rant, I think pundit of the week, or piss pundit of the week, goes to Monty Burns over the water, who's been sponsored by Spade Town Brewery.
Other lagers are available, I keep saying it.
Spade Town Lager, the lager for Ronaldo signings. So that's it. So it's just left to me to say thanks very much for everyone listening. Please like and subscribe where you can for the podcast. Please tell your friends if you like the podcast. If you don't like it, let us know why, please, at etims.contact@gmail.com. Please try and follow Ralph's diary. There's going to be a hell of a lot for you to write about in the next few weeks, Ralph, as the fixtures come out and the travel arrangement starts trying to get made, so that'll be interesting. So try and catch Ralph's diary on etims.net, Ralph's Etims diary, and it's just left for me to say thanks to everyone for joining tonight. Thank you, Ralph.
No, a big thank you to LDT Stores, which is where I now spend my money instead of spending it on drink.
There you go. Well done. Laura's fantastic designs, and I think it's our shop's anniversary very soon, so So congratulations to Laura. Thanks very much to Monty Burns for his Ronaldo contribution and other aspects.
Thanks, Desi. Thanks, lads. Enjoyed that.
Hopefully that rumour will start. I can just see tomorrow's Twitter headlines. Man talks shite. And of course, last but not least, Hector Bandido. Thank you, Hector.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, folks. Thanks very much for listening. My name's Desmond. Good night.